It's a good
Those fascistic regulations that prevent those of us who work in women's clinics from even uttering the A word, abortion. He implied this week that the gag rule has been lifted or modified. Do not be fooled. George Bush is lying. The gag rule remains fully intact. Those of us in federally funded women's clinics remain bound and gagged by this draconian measure that was designed specifically to interfere with a woman's search for a safe and legal abortion. George Bush is telling us that doctors may now provide abortion information to clients. He's lying. The regulations state that physicians may provide medical information to a client, but may not refer for an abortion unless her medical condition may complicate the pregnancy. Referrals may not be specifically for the purpose of obtaining an abortion. Further, such referrals must be made to full-service health providers and not to providers whose principal activity is providing abortion services. In short, those of us working in clinics who are trained, experienced, and ironically enough, required by our government grants to counsel women on all options regarding their pregnancies are prohibited from doing so. Only women whose pregnancies pose a physical danger to them can get abortion information, and then they can only be referred to healthcare providers that in fact don't exist. They cannot be referred to the very experts who have made abortion the safest and the most common medical procedure that OBGYNs perform in this country today. George Bush is a liar. He's a liar and he's a coward. He has pretended to rescind the gag rule without in fact doing so. He is giving the impression that he has capitulated, that he's backed down. Why? Why would he do this? Perhaps it's because he's beginning to sense that millions upon millions of us are seething with outrage and indignation that Roe versus Wade is finished, that the gag rule is now the law of the land. Perhaps he senses, as well he should, that we are fed up and that we are going to make damn sure that George and his buddies join the ranks of the unemployed come November. We who work at the Women's Needs Center and every other clinic represented at this march are here today to say to you, George, and to your little friend Danny, and to all of you guys who think you can get away with this shit, that you can't. Enough is enough. You can't shut us up, and you won't shut us down. We will never comply with the gag rule. We will never, ever give up our right to speak to anyone about anything we damn well please. And we will continue to help women obtain safe abortions, legal or otherwise, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. Thank you.
Good, she got us all worked up. I want to thank our signer.
Hello, on the way here, I saw a sign that said fighting for our lives literally every single day of their life. I'm talking about women with HIV infection. The issue of AIDS activism and the pro-choice movement are very much aligned. Our causes are integrated. You cannot talk about women with AIDS without discussing the issue of choice. And I'm here to encourage you to include women with AIDS on the pro-choice agenda. Our issues are aligned. First, I'd like to address the issue of abortions. A recent study in New York City showed that women, when they call to schedule an abortion, if they mentioned that they were HIV positive, often were denied an abortion by the very clinics that are supporting that cause. And that was simply because of blatant AIDS phobia. Abortions can be safe and legal for the woman receiving the abortion as well as the health care worker performing that abortion. We must demand that HIV positive women have equal access to safe and legal abortions. Thank you. Furthermore, on the opposite side of the coin, our CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is mandating that doctors advise women who are HIV positive and pregnant that they should seek an abortion. Women who are pregnant and HIV positive should be able to make an informed decision and decide for themselves whether they want to abort that child or not. Statistically, on a nationwide basis, 30% of women who are HIV positive do transmit the virus to their child. In San Francisco, that percentage is 7 to 10%, possibly because of a great organization locally called the Bay Area Perinatal AIDS Center, where they get women earlier in their pregnancy, they provide them with good health care, and they have lowered that risk. This is blatant discrimination of our government against women who are HIV positive and not allowing them to make their own fucking decision on whether they want to seek an abortion or not. They should be informed of the risk, but they should be allowed to make an informed decision. Furthermore, talking about informed decision making, women are constantly denied access to clinical trials because they are either pregnant or because they are during or in childbearing age, or because they do not have a quote-unquote acceptable method of birth control. Once again, our government is discriminating against women with HIV. In the case of that method of contraception, it's open to the individual researcher whether they consider abstinence an acceptable method of contraception, condoms an acceptable method of contraception. Some of them require that the woman must go on the birth control pill before they consider that an acceptable method of birth control and making it okay for them to be part of that clinical trial. In the case of women who are HIV positive, the birth control pill can increase the prognosis of AIDS. They can get symptoms of AIDS a lot faster if they're on the birth control pill. So our government is mandating that these women must be on the pill before they can be part of a clinical trial. So women with HIV are being denied access to experimental drugs which could save their lives and extend their lives. This is wrong. Once again, the government is blatantly discriminating against women with HIV, and this has got to stop. Furthermore, just simply the issue of access to health care is something that needs to be included in the pro-choice agenda. Women with HIV should have more frequent PAPs. The government is refusing to pay for those sort of health care access. Women with HIV are more susceptible to gynecological problems. That is not being addressed by our government. The CDC is still refusing to include women's gynecological manifestations as part of their definition of AIDS. I'm sure everybody has heard that women die 4 times faster from AIDS. That's not necessarily true. Women are simply diagnosed a lot later because the CDC is not telling doctors to recognize those gynecological manifestations. So by the time a woman thinks she might be HIV positive and is diagnosed with AIDS, she's so far into the disease that yes, she does appear to die faster. Studies have shown, though, that if a woman is diagnosed as early as a man would be diagnosed of AIDS, she has the same chance of survival and the same life expectancy. I encourage you to include and think about, not just, once again, I want to remind you that our issues are integrated, but unfortunately, the AIDS activist community has been carrying the full burden of addressing these issues. We need your voices behind us. Women with HIV need your voices. They need your support. We encourage you to challenge the CDC to include gynecological manifestations. We encourage you to demand that our government provide more comprehensive access to health care for not just women with HIV, but all women. We encourage you to demand that our government provide good prenatal care. So if a woman chooses to not have an abortion and carry through with that pregnancy, she can get good prenatal care and she can have a healthy child. This is an issue of choice. This is a pro-choice movement. And women with HIV are daily being denied choice and being denied access and being denied their lives by our government. Everybody loves statistics, right? So I'm going to read you a few that somebody faxed to me yesterday. In New York City, estimates quote that 20,000 children in New York City will have lost their mothers to AIDS by 1993. A survey of 78 New York drug treatment programs found that 54% exclude pregnant women from drug treatment programs. AIDS is the 9th leading cause of death among children aged 1 to 4. AIDS is the 7th leading cause of death among young people ages 15 to 24. In some populations, most specifically black women aged 15 to 44 in New Jersey and New York, AIDS is the leading cause of death. I encourage you to, whenever you think about the issue of pro-choice, think about these women who are daily fighting for their lives. Something specific that you can do on Wednesday at noon is show up at the UN Center at 7th and Market, where ACT UP San Francisco is holding a demonstration demanding that the CDC expand those guidelines and include gynecological manifestations. They'll probably be throughout the crowd handing out flyers, so I encourage you to attend that demonstration. Thank you for your time, and keep pushing for choice.
Good morning! Are we ready to march? Are we ready to fight? Are we ready to win? Thank you. I bring you greetings from the 7,000 women on public benefits, working women in San Francisco. Women who are on the battlefront, who are fighting to keep abortion safe and legal in the state of California. I bring you greetings from working women in San Francisco who are ready to stand up and fight against those forces who would take away our choice. We say no. No to those who will try to divide us because of class. We say no to those who will try to divide us because of race. We say no to those who will try to divide us because of sexual preference. We are fighting a war. And if you don't believe it, remember those who are not here, who died in the back alleys and back rooms. We are fighting a war against Norplant, the forced sterilization of women because of their economic position. So I say to you today, I say yes. I say yes to our unity. I say yes to our power. I say yes to our victory. If we stand together as a fist rather than fingers, we will win. On to victory. Thank you very much.
This is a message to George Bush, to Randall Terry, to all the women-hating, fetus-fetishizing warmongers in Congress. This is a message to the supremacist court and to David Duke and Pete Wilson's clothing. We will defend ourselves by any means necessary in your war against women. Operation Oppress You, clinic bombings, the violence wrought in the name of pro-life and America exposes the hypocrisy of the pro-life movement. For them, it's not about respecting life, it's about controlling women. There is a war on women. Did you know that in developing countries, the most common killers of women of childbearing age are complications from childbirth and complications from illegal abortion? We are damned if we do, and we are damned if we don't. The U.S. ranks #1 in the world in military spending, and it ranks 22 in infant mortality. The lack of prenatal care is scandalous. In this time of economic recession, poor and low-income single mothers are faced with AFDC cuts. If you need an abortion and you are hard-pressed to find a doctor in your area to perform it. And if you need to pay with Medicaid, you're really in trouble because Medicaid only pays for abortion in 8 states. If you're on AFDC in California, the state wants to use you as a guinea pig at no cost to you if you get implanted with Norplant. Women are damned if we do and damned if we don't, and we're not going to take it anymore. We are here today marching for women's lives, and we must demand more than abortion rights, because choice is not something most women have in a world where it is a struggle to even survive. Abortion rights do not come near to solving all our problems, but without it, we are enslaved. Roe, as much as we need it, has never been enough. We must have free abortion on demand. We have in the U.S. today a system of reproductive apartheid. It's not news that poor and low-income women and women of color do not get the same health care as their better-off sisters. Now, the 5 million women who go to federally funded family planning clinics can't even get the most basic information about abortion, like where you go to get one, let alone the same health services as women with means. Pro-choice women and men are fighting back now before the New World Order looks too much like The Handmaid's Tale. The attack on women's health in California is severe. While everyone sees California as the state with the strongest guarantees for legal abortion, women with Medi-Cal are having a hard time finding physicians willing to serve them, especially for second trimester abortions. More and more doctors are unwilling to take women who can only pay with Medi-Cal because they never see reimbursements for the services they render, and they never see the money that they get back. It's but a fraction of a cost that they have actually billed Medi-Cal. In fact, the Oakland Feminist Women's Health Clinic had to shut down in 1988 because the state never paid the $263,000 it owed them for Medi-Cal services. I've had very committed doctors tell me that they will be forced to cut services unless Medi-Cal stops their harassment of abortion providers and pays the legitimate rate. This sleazy, behind-the-scenes assault on Medi-Cal abortion must stop. Wilson and DHS Director Molly Coy must be held accountable for providing the same health care to women who cannot pay for it as those who can. Meanwhile, Wilson and Coy are offering the same poor women a new birth control drug they call Norplant.
and it's being touted as the greatest thing since the pill. It is very insidious. Not only are there serious complications reported with this birth control implant that's surgically implanted in your arm, but it's being coercively used against the same women. Only a few weeks after it was approved by the FDA, a California judge ordered a woman to be implanted or to go to jail. Now, forcing poor women to use Norplant with threats of jail or economic incentives that they can't refuse is sterilization abuse. The justification for this abuse is the idea of population control, which argues that poverty in the U.S. and developing countries is caused by overpopulation. It is a racist ideology. It is a cheap way of blaming poor women for the economic and social woes brought by capitalist greed, by environmental destruction, by exploitation, and by inequality. We must oppose population control arguments for abortion and birth control to really have a united front of women in this struggle for abortion and for health access. Join CDRR in demanding Medi-Cal justice. There can be no compromise in this struggle for women's lives. Women say no compromise. Defend our sisters, defend our lives. Women say no compromise. Defend our sisters, defend our lives. Hello, everybody! You about ready to take the streets and defend our rights?
Yeah! All right, my name is Laura O'Grady. I'm a member of Defend Abortion Rights Emergency Coalition. We have chapters at San Francisco State University and also at UC Davis, and I'm a member of the San Francisco City College chapter. DARE is a campus-based organization interested in defending Roe v. Wade. We oppose parental consent laws. Thank you. Parental consent laws initially seem like a wonderful idea. No teenage woman should make such a difficult, important decision on her own. Luckily, over 50% of all teen women tell at least one parent anyway. Unfortunately, the government thinks they can legislate good family communications, but they can't. The reality of such legislation is that women will seek back alley abortions. The reality is women will die from unsafe, illegal abortion. The reality is parental consent laws kill. My generation is obviously affected by parental consent laws. My generation is having sex. My generation is getting pregnant, and my generation is having abortions. Therefore, it must be my generation that defends our reproductive rights and takes the streets of San Francisco today. Great, thank you. There are many people who consider abortion a very private, personal issue. They even find it offensive that I'm at a table or on their doorstep asking them if they are pro-choice. Oh, where'd I go? Oh, asking them if they are offended that I, a total stranger, would ask them how they feel about such a personal issue. For instance, when my mother said that she wouldn't exactly be bragging to all of her friends that I was speaking at a pro-choice event, I immediately said, "Are you telling me your friends are anti-choice? Do you mean to tell me they believe that abortion should be criminalized for all women?" And she said, "Well, Laura, no, for Pete's sake, I don't want to offend them. These are 50-year-old Catholic women. No one has ever put it to them in those terms of criminalizing abortion." And that's the problem. Nobody's ever put it in those terms. Nobody wants to offend. Nobody wants to get too personal. Well, abortion is personal, and it only becomes offensive when a stranger confronts you about such a private issue. Well, there are strangers confronting you about this issue. These strangers have dragged a very personal decision into the political arena. These strangers believe this issue should be legislated and decided by them. These strangers wish to criminalize abortion And these strangers are the United States government, and I find that offensive. Cool. I'd also like to let anybody know that if you're not exactly sure if you're pro-choice or you just want to kind of be left alone about the issue, I'd like to ask those people, don't you believe the idea of criminalizing abortion is offensive? And I'd like to let them know that if they don't organize and activate now, here, today in San Francisco, or in D.C. on April 5th, these strangers will criminalize abortion for all women. That's why we must defend our reproductive rights. That's why we're taking the streets of San Francisco today. We will not let this happen. We won't go back. We will fight back. And we get to start marching now.
Okay. Okay.
choice. 75,000 of us here are today to serve notice, not simply on Bush, but on a recalcitrant and out-of-step Democratic Party where I have no representatives, and neither do the women and children who are on the streets. We are serving notice that it is no more business as usual. Our children, our lives, in fact, the very status of the women at the bottom is defining every one of our lives out here. And until that is the agenda, none of us truly have choice. We are also here, we'd be recalcitrant if we didn't note as well the particular cowardice of the governor of this state and much of its state legislature, who would move to steal money from women, children, elderly, disabled, and individual adults to pay for some more millionaires to live like the rich and shameless. Are you going to stand for that? We have the opportunity at this juncture, not unlike the earlier women's rights movement and the precursor to that, the abolition movement, which tore down the system of slavery and established the ability for men and women to be free. You have that in your juncture, but not if you allow other people to set your agenda. You want to hear me now? Because we're talking about raising some hell here in America today. This lie called the Taxpayers Initiative Program. We need your effort to register the women who are under fire, the children and the women who are on AFDC who get the crumbs that we throw them, and who now they're talking about stealing even more money. Look here, you got to take these numbers here, register vote to say whoever stands for that, get the hell out of our way, because our women and children are first. Who support North Plant, North Pete first. Start with the boys. Let me tell you, it'll turn around real quick. Okay, the sticks ain't for the men, it's for us chicks, okay? Well, I tell you what, let's start with the corporate CEOs' daughters, the state legislators, women included, who are defending and championing that poor women should be norped, i.e. sterilized, instead of getting their actual needs. Let them start with their daughters, their wives, the corporate CEOs' wives and daughters, the congressional daughters. If it's good, if it ain't good enough for them, why the hell they think we want it in our community and all our women? You gotta raise your voice against this. It was Nazi Germany they're trying to implement. Look here, now after we leave this march, we got a lot of work to do. You know what I'm saying? We got to serve notice. Pete Wilson, Jerry Brown, Clinton, which one of them have a program for women and children? Have you asked that question? You know, they talk about economics, but whose economics? Some more rich people to get richer? Is it about your children and their lives? Let me give you an example. This recalcitrant and out-of-step Congress voted $700 billion for some savings and loans, folks. Now check it out, they could buy 5 million houses. So the men and women that you marched by, that was pushing their cart and sleeping in these damn doorways, would have some place to live instead of living like dogs. Hey, you better mix it up now. We are talking about a women's movement that is serving notice. No more business as usual. And serving notice to a pro-choice movement that says any movement that doesn't expose the lie of North Plant sterilization, to hell with that. We are about the movement of fighting for justice and crusading for a new America, and this is yet another step in that. We won't go back. We're getting stronger, we're getting broader, and we are here to raise some hell and not continue to allow business as usual. Join us, read, study, and organize. Thank you.
3 things in mind. We believe that women have the power to self-determination. We believe that women have the power of self-reliance. And we made a bet that no force forces of the state, not judges, not legislatures, and not cops, would do anything to protect women's access to abortion. I'll be damned if we weren't right on all counts. While the president and the senators and all the other criminals in the highest echelons of government try to figure out ways to deny women their right to choose, and while the religious bigots funnel all their money and their sheep into an army of terrorists at the clinic, there's only one thing that has prevented that from happening. Who is it? We did it! That's right. The fierce women, the progressive men, the young people, the gays, the lesbians, the bisexuals, the black women, the Latino women, the welfare mothers, everyone who understands that we have to stand up to take care of our own, we are the ones that keep the clinics open. On April 22nd, the U.S. Supreme Court will begin its sham debate in the Pennsylvania abortion case. The decision that they make will curtail yet further the right of a pregnant woman to terminate her pregnancy. But more heinous than that, the Supreme Court will most likely use